how do we discuss 2024's In the Violent Nature without referring to one of the greatest horror franchises of all time? It's tough, but this movie, we're just going to come right out of the gate. This movie is an absolute horror, but movie. It's a masterpiece. This movie, what it does, and it literally walks inside of your brain and doesn't leave. It's a great film. I want to talk to you guys about it. Peter A. DeLuca, AKAPAD 69. This is the 31 Days of Dread 2024 edition. Every single year, we get crazy, we get obsessive, we get into horror for the entire month of October. I'm happy, I'm joyful, I am very proud that the Film Buff podcast has grown to a level that I know I can bring this movie to a lot of individuals who may not know about it otherwise. That's why we do it. That's why we have this. So let's go. It's October, and it's time for the 31 Days of Dread. This is where you get one horror movie a day for the entire month of October. That's how much we love horror. That's how much we love Halloween on the Film Buff podcast. And here's the crazy thing. This is the longest running horror event in all of podcasting. So get ready. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to scare our socks off. And yes, we're going to be grabbing some candy. Maybe some cereal. Let's go. It's a movie of a guy walking. It's a walking. We do see his face. Fantastic reveal. He's got the killer in this movie has one of the worst. See, if we go to Victor Crowley, Hatchet, right? We want to say Hatchet is the modern day Jason Voorhees. More of a streamlined origin. There's more of a through line through the four Hatchet movies. But it's also from a generation that grew up watching Friday the 13th. And for a while, we could do that. But then we have this. And we have a generation that kept watching Friday the 13th. And I don't want to discuss names, people, individuals involved. Because this episode's about the movie. And you're kind of obsessed, right? You make a movie like this when you're obsessed with a genre. And a lot of times, creatively, you go into a project or you start to create something with a premise. I just want to see this guy walk. I want to see him walk. And I want people to understand a little bit of the navigation of this guy getting around this wooded environment, going from one person to the next, killing everyone, right? Like, I just want someone walking through the woods, killing people. And through that, we're going to explore the origin, who this guy is, where he's coming from, what some of the horror movie tropes we're using in his resurrection. He's a guy that didn't die, he's somewhat cursed, somewhat linked to a family jewel and his mother. And we're going to just show it. Some of the positioning of the camera is going to be from behind. Some of it we're going to be in front of people's faces. The camera's going to move forward, backwards. We're going to have a final girl. We're going to do it all. The mask. This guy essentially is, and we are to believe, because it's not confirmed, and again too, right? We leave some things open here when it comes to the origin of our killer. He's a fireman that was somewhat screwed over. So in the beginning of the movie, he rises from what used to be a fire tower. And we kind of get that probably 20 minutes after that. We have a bunch of kids, campfire, telling ghost stories. One of the ghost stories is potentially the origin of all of this. But it's 10 years after this incident. He rises from the ashes, literally, which I love, to get a family heirloom that connects him to his mother. Very Jason Voorhees. And then here we go. I believe this movie is one it's like one day, one night, maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3 nights. It's 3 nights worth of this guy roaming around. The proximity of who he gets, we're just to assume it's spread out enough. We do a very creative thing where he's walking and we hear all the sound design, and it's somewhat therapeutic. But we hear full conversations, and I love the idea that you can have moments in life and you can have conversations and arguments, and a predator. And really, it comes right down to some of the what we love about that Schwarzenegger Predator movie. But something could be invisible, or something could be unseen, and it's lurking and it's stalking us. And we can just live our lives and not know. There's no other movie that I've ever seen that hits that idea home as well as this. The Mask. We're in a firefighter museum. He grabs a old-timey fire mask, I guess. We don't, whatever. I don't know if it's accurate. I assume it is, because why not make it accurate? And he puts it on, and it's okay. It's just okay. It's not there. It's not quite iconic, but this is what a lot of like Terrifier struggles with this. I think Terrifier is one of the outliers, but with these Winnie the Pooh, Blood Honey, since that has 2 now, there's always a struggle and there's a pressure for a horror slasher to become iconic. Scream was a sensation, but it took a generation for that mask to become a Halloween staple. It really did. And it didn't mean it wasn't merchandised along the way. It definitely was. But now, we go to Five Below every single year. Five Below has Ghostface, right? It's called Ghostface. I don't know, AKAPADers. Why isn't this movie heralded? Why isn't this movie championed? Why isn't this movie loved? I want to explore more about this flick, but it's the 31 Days of Dread. I just want to recommend this movie. You have to watch it if you're especially if you're into slasher movies. This movie is this work of art. It's amongst all of them. I would put this movie, and later, keep in mind, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, again, took a generation for it to become a regularly interpreted franchise. If we were to classify the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a slasher movie that gets ranked with all the others, this movie's right there with it. The original Halloween, this is right there with it. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, this is right there with it. And that's it. And we're moving forward. AKAPADers, rock and roll. AKAPADers, thank you for joining me for another episode of the 31 Days of Dread. We have been dedicated to horror for a long time on this feed, on this podcast. If you guys want to know more about everything we do here, go to AKAPAD.com. From there, you can navigate to the 31 Days of Dread. We have a dedicated landing page that goes through all the years of the 31 Days of Dread. And we also have a directory that jumps you to any movie that we've done. So you can just look up the movie by name. You can go to the directory. It's all alphabetical. And you can just explore. And that's the intent. And that's why we're so into the 31 Days of Dread, because no one's done this. No one has put this much time, this much thought and effort into American horror and international horror, and we love it. Horror is the future of American cinema. Horror right now is holding up American cinema, and I'm so thankful for it. So I'm hoping that you can extend yourself, explore, and continue the conversation. AKAPAD.com. Thanks, guys.